And welcome to another episode of the Rorschach Test Podcast. I am your host, Tyrell James. Today I have a special guest with me, Carolyn Colleen. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. Okay, so it's been a little while. It's been probably about a month and a week since the last time I did a show. So I may have some new people there. Actually, I have gotten new subscribers. I have, to my network. So it could be the first time that somebody is actually watching this show. So just want to let everybody know, if it's your first time watching, what I do here is I put up a series of Rorschach or inkblot tests for my guests, and then I ask them what they see. So based off of what they see, I connect it to who they are as a person, to their passions, to what they do for a living. So today, my guest, Carolyn Colleen. Well, actually, Carolyn, I'm going to let you tell them exactly who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm Carolyn. I am a fierce mother of 3 children, very proud. That's my number one job. And then I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a business strategist, and soon to be PhD in psychology and organizational leadership. So I've got about, I'd say about 3 months left.
Got you. So what is interesting. So when in your psychology class, did you ever learn about Rorschach tests?
I did a little bit, but I would not say I'm versed. So I'll leave that to you.
Well, look, I'm not. Oh, you just reminded me. I need to put out my disclaimer. I'm not a therapist, nor am I qualified to psychoanalyze anybody. However, I'm gonna do it anyway. So,
And it's fun. I'm excited.
But just curious, do they still use that?
It depends on the type of therapy. There are inkblot tests. It's interesting just to see what comes about, and it's kind of like a talking tool.
Got you. Yeah. I mean, that's what this is.
Right. It's the
That's
same.
what this is. Yep. Okay. Got you. All right. Well, we're going to start with our first talking tool. Um. So, what did you say that you saw here?
Yeah. So here I saw this one, and right away I saw a masquerade ball mask.
Okay. Can you kind of break it down?
Yeah. So I was thinking about the masks that we wear and the masks of every day in our lives. So every day we wake up, we've got different roles that you have to do during the day. And I thought of this picture specifically was a masquerade ball. So you put this mask on, and it's almost like a armor that you could wear throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
that's what came to mind.
Okay. So when we go back to the inception of masquerade balls and the masquerade mask, whatever, one of the reasons that it was invented was to hide one's identity.
Mm.
So I want to go back in time. Let's go back to when you were growing up. Okay. Did you ever feel as though you had to wear a mask to hide your identity? Were you afraid of showing people who you really are?
Yeah, I think that as a child, I think all children have that, but for me specifically, yes. So in wearing in a mask, a masquerade, and hiding who I am, I didn't really understand the world and what was in it. So from a very young age, I experienced sexual abuse from men and women, starting at age 4, all the way through my childhood, and so it made it very difficult for the way that I saw the world, and I wanted to be able to put a mask on to make other people from the outside not know. Basically putting up appearances, because there's a lot of shame and guilt involved in all of that. And for a long time, it was a mask throughout my childhood. I mean, as a kid, it's hard enough being a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all the different ways you have to show up. You have to show up and try to, figure out who you are and try to be, think you want to be cool or fit in. And really all you want is those basic human needs. All you want is a safe place to go home to, food, love. And while you're trying to also just be. And so I would say yes. Answer to your question is that mask was continuous. And then as I grew up and I started to look at my past and see those difficult times in my childhood, I started to understand that it was an armor. But then I also learned how to take that armor and use it in a way that served me compared to what would self-sabotage me, meaning codependency, meaning the way I saw the world, meaning the anger that I held in. That mask was a safety measure.
Did it ever become, well, the things that you went through, the sexual abuse, did it ever become destructive? Did you ever find yourself lashing out in a destructive way?
I would say it was more internal in the choices that I made. So the choices I made got me into relationships that were very bad for me. And that was the codependency that came out. I was never physically violent, but I was definitely violent in the way that I treated myself.
Okay. Would you say you allowed, did you have a, I guess, a skewed view of what love is?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, I understood love to be unending sacrifice and suffering. And I did not realize that it could be unconditional. And throughout my life's journey, just really getting into understanding that I was deserving of love, and that love had to come from inside and from my higher power. For me, is God. And I needed to be able to receive that and learn how to redefine what love was. It's not unending suffering and self-sacrifice. It can be unconditional. It can be all giving and all knowing, and all accepting. And that took a long time and a lot of hard work in order to figure that out.
Right. Okay. I completely get that. So the other thing about the mask, about that masquerade mask is, one of the other reasons that it was created, it was to use different colors to express one's freedom of speech and voice one's opinions and emotions without judgment. So you are an author. So one of the best things about being an author, about writing a book, is you can express your views, your opinions without interruption. You sit there, you get everything else. It's different when you're having a conversation with somebody and you could be trying to express your thoughts and your views, and then they feel as though they have to interject. You touch a nerve, they cut you off, and sometimes you don't get a chance to actually complete your thought. But one of the things, the most beautiful part about being able to be an author and write that is you can do it without being interrupted. You can get your thoughts completely out there. Now, that does not mean that person who, had it been a conversation, and that person that would have interrupted you, it doesn't mean that they now won't have an opinion about your opinion, or that they won't have a view about your view. So after you have completed your book, you put your book out there, you put your all into it. Let's say that somebody is confronting you, as far as, they're doing it in a very confrontational manner. Okay, doesn't have to be physical, but just in a very confrontational manner. They have opposing views to your thoughts, to your views, to your opinions, and to your feelings. How do you deal with that? Or do you just still hide behind that mask?
That's a good question. Yeah, what's interesting is that within really honoring those masks, I have learned, and I study Michael Singer. So he's the author of Untethered Soul and Living Untethered. And it's a way to really get deep inside, like you talked a little bit earlier about that love journey, and really getting deep inside about what is the true meaning of self-love. So a lot of people think, I love myself. I'll go out and get my nails done. I'll get my hair done. I'll take a mental health day. That's loving myself. But when I think about love and on this journey, especially with someone who, we all have adversity in our life. We all have different traumas that we've experienced. And how do you deal with them? Not just deal, but process through them, is because they're always a piece of you. It's just that how do you navigate it so that it's working for you rather than working against you. And so when I look at people that may be coming at me in some capacity, um, what is it that's going on in their life that they feel they need to? Because, like you said earlier, again, there's that trigger. There's that, ooh, I got to say something. Ooh, I got to get in there. And everybody has that too. And so as people come in and they may have feedback about my book or about, something I spoke about, maybe it's on my second book, maybe it's on something that I put out into the world. How is it, what I think about is, how is it that I might be able to lower my mask, see it for what it is, and allow? Because I don't have to absorb, I can accept people where they are. I can allow, but I don't have to absorb it. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, in some capacities, yeah, it is a different kind of mask you have to put on, or it could be a place where you're lowering your mask, maybe seeing that other person and allowing for them to be wherever they are. And I feel that there's also a space of that concept of meeting people where they're at compared to accepting people where they're at. When you meet someone where they're at, I feel that means you have to go back to where they are. I'm saying, maybe how about accept people where they are, meaning maybe you've already done the work. You don't have to go back, but you can accept them and say, hey, you know what? I see that struggle. I see you. I'm going to allow you to be where you are. If you need some help, let me know. I can definitely allow for you to get through that struggle. And as you lead through that fire, whatever it is you're struggling with, I'll be over here on the other side, accepting you where you are, allowing you to go through that journey. So that is my perspective.
As I sit here and I listen to you talk, and I think about what you said about the abuse that you encountered when you were younger and the mask that you wore as a result of that, it seems like you never got rid of the mask. All you did is you changed the reason for the mask, or you actually have empowered the mask now. Before, you were hiding behind the mask. You were looking for a safe place. Now you are using the mask to empower not only yourself, but to empower other people.
Yes, I'm repurposing it.
Right, exactly, yeah, and that is pretty daggone amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next. Would you say it's a talking point? The pictures you say talking point?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move to the next talking points here. All right. So what did you say that you saw here?
Yes. So I'm seeing Mother Earth mirrored. So I see it's a mirror. So I see a woman and I see a nurturing woman, and it's mirrored. She's back to back. And that's where I came to Mother Earth, is that nurturing that I'm seeing in the blot.
Okay. So Mother Earth is the sustainer and the giver of life, right? So as much as she gives life, life is also being taken away. For every life that is born, there's a life that is taken, right? So tell me about a time in your life where death has given you life.
Mm-hmm. Either literally within a person leaving our earth, or in a space of maybe what I needed to let die so that something could be reborn. Both. I would say with people that have lost and passed on, and then also within life lessons that I have had to let go of in order for the new evolution of me to emerge. I really resonate with our interesting human journey. We get to define what we, like I said earlier, repurposing, all these things, all these occurrences on this journey, they are a part of us. And I say in life, you're either coming into a storm, you're in a storm, or you're just getting out of one. And so we have the same, we can take those tools and we can repurpose them. So each time we go through a storm, each time we go through an evolution, we are getting ready, right? So like, for example, when I left my my leadership position in a very high-end leadership position in order to continue to pursue my dream. And as navigating through just being 100% entrepreneur compared to working in the corporate world, now that's a journey. And coming into a storm, being in one or heading right into another one, doesn't necessarily mean that life gets easier. You just learn how to navigate better. And so what I've learned is what I have to sometimes let die in order something new can be reborn is continually inside me. I had to let go of the fear of what was on the other side in order to remember who I am. I had to remember that, as I led strategy for cancer care for 3 states, remembering that how I figured out how I got there was because I knew how to, as a single mother, go from the bus stop to the food pantry, to school, to daycare, and back to the next food pantry with a baby in a diaper bag and a backpack all in tow with the food and still not miss the bus. Like, what does that mean? That creates a career of strategy. So that's how I built my career, is to remember who I am. What is it that I am already good at? And then I build that career. Same thing with, what do I have to let die? What do I have to let die of the story I wrapped around being in those hard places, and repurposing it into, what? Yeah, that was awful. But I have to let die the meaning I attached to it so that I could rebirth something new that would create a fulfilling and life-lasting career. And now, like you said, helping other people do the same.
So, all right, I got a question for you. Let's say that someone has come to you and they're having a rather rough time in their life, and they hear you say you're either coming out of a storm, in the storm, or about to go into the storm. And to them, the way they receive that is something negative, because you constantly talking about a storm, and to them it's like, I want to get away from the storm. I don't want to be in the storm. I don't want to be coming out of the storm, and I definitely don't want to be about to go into one. So how do you bring some sort of positivity to that person that sees that as only a negative?
Yeah, it's about what you fill yourself up with. Because you know what? Don't let anybody lie to you. Life is not easy. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, how we navigate. Once we come out of a storm, if you want to add a negative connotation to that, that's okay. Because, we're just coming out of that rainstorm, right? And how do you find the beauty within? You look up and there's a rainbow, but you can see behind that rainbow, there's another cloud. And we just navigate those ebbs and flows. And in between, how do you dance in the rain? How do you enjoy that rain? How do you see it? You know what? This isn't really rain. It's just a little bit of sprinkles. It's no big deal. I got this. And the other thing is, we are the average of the 5 people we hang with. So you want to think about the 5 people that you hang with. Just check your text messages and look at the last 5 people you text, because you are the average of those people, whether we like it or not. Now we think about mindset. We think about the mood you wake up in the morning. You think about the way you look at things. You see a storm as something like, "Ooh, bring it on," or, "Oh, come on, I'm so tired." Like, how do you see things? What's your average of your income? What's the average of your health? You end up being the average of those 5 people. Now, mind you, that does not mean you can't shift up those 5 people. I'm not talking about throwing people away. I'm talking about who are the people that you're getting influence from. So by listening to your podcast, people can add you as that 5th person in order to uplift and challenge the way they see things and the way they might see images in their world. So we can always change those 5 people. It doesn't mean throwing away the people you have. It means, how are you being conscious and intentional about the people that are influencing your thought process?
So it's more so, life isn't necessarily about what happens to you, it's how you react to what happens to you.
Right.
All right. Got you. Okay. All right. So now I want to stick with Mother Earth here. So Mother Earth there are roughly 8 billion people on Earth, right? I have 2 questions here. Well, it may lead to more depending on what your answers are, but do you think that people are either good or bad? Or do you believe that there's something in between? Or actually, and you know what? Tell you what, put it this way. This question is more so about bad people. I believe that they're good people. And I believe generally, just in speaking to people, that they believe that they're good, great people in this world. Things start to get a little weird when we start talking about bad people. I've spoken to people who think that there are no bad people, just good people who make bad decisions. And then I'm like, Hitler. So my question to you is, do you believe that there are bad people on this earth?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Because I do not believe that people are born bad.
Okay.
However, I do feel that what happens in your life routes the decisions that you make, and at some point, there's no turning back. It seems as though, when you think of like Hitler, you think they have somehow figured out how to rationalize the way that they do things in the world. And for me, that means that they're bad. And so, but yeah, I don't believe that people are born bad. I think that there's elements of our environment that have caused it to be that way, and there's some kind of evil that causes that.
I think I agree with you. Even with Hitler, I read his book. I read that book. I can never remember how to pronounce it. Like Mein Kampf.
Mein Kampf. Yeah.
Mein Kampf. Yeah. So, and I did a little bit of. I did some more research actually on Hitler. The reason that I was so fascinated with him was because it was, one of the things that has always amazed me about him was that he said that blonde hair, blue eyes, that's the ideal race, correct? And he looked nothing like that. And he got a bunch of people to follow him, even though he looked absolutely nothing like what he said was the ideal race. And I was like, how do you have that type of influence on people? So that's what made me start, just researching and just studying this guy. One of the things that I learned about him was that he was very charismatic. He didn't start off this way. So I don't believe that people are born evil. I believe that things start to happen. And just like we said earlier, life isn't about what happens to you. It's about how you react to what happens to you. And oftentimes the way people react to things, it leads them down a path of evil. And that's what happened with him. I honestly believe that. But he said he was very charismatic. I believe he was artistic as well. If I remember correctly, I do believe he was an artist and he was drawing, so now you have this creative mind as well. So that's if I remember correctly. It's been a few years since I read that book, but I think I remember reading that part. But yeah, like I mean, there were great things about him, but
Mm-hmm.
all of that stuff is overshadowed by you know
The evil
who
he
we
shows.
ultimately
Yeah.
know is Hitler.
Yeah.
Would you say?
It's the evil that overcame the rest of
Exactly.
whatever, was in there, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Mm.
So so in sticking with that, one of the things that you do is you help people to realize how their past trauma dictates their choices. So when we when we look at that now, do we think that people are bad, or do we think that, well, do you think that people are bad that have not necessarily born bad, but have they turned into an evil person, or are they just a victim of their past trauma?
Hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I've been asked that before because some people will say, I've made the most horrible decisions in my life and I had the best upbringing. I had the
Mhm.
best parents. I had the best everything. And I still I make real bad choices. Um, and I think it's exactly what you said. It's that people, they make certain choices depending on their environment and then how they choose to create the meaning that they attach to their environment. And they choose actively to be evil.
Mhm.
And at some point they've decided that that is who they've decided to be. So kind of like have you seen that movie Megamind?
No,
Uh,
I've seen bits and pieces. I haven't seen the whole thing though. But
yeah, so it's a cartoon for kids.
right, right.
But it's kind of interesting there how both children were kind of how they were destined to life and how their journey in life laid out. One went evil and one went good.
Mhm.
However, at the end of the story, they switch. One disappeared and then one becomes good from evil. It's interesting. It's just a continuous lesson of no matter how far we've come, and that's actually the grace of God is how far we've come. We have an opportunity to change the story.
Mhm.
And so to answer your question, yes, I think that people do act in a lot of evil, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the end of the game.
Right. Okay. All right. So we're going to move to our final talking point. Well, kind of. It's kind of the final talking point. There's more that's coming that you don't even know about yet. I got I got a couple of surprises for you. Um so this last one. Okay. What did you say that you saw here?
So this was I'm seeing a fierce warrior, but also I'm seeing, within fierce, there's a lot of different ways to interpret the word fierce. And when I say fierce warrior, I mean they're a warrior that has grace and kindness.
Okay. So fierce warrior, grace, kindness. Um I think that is that when you look at the word warrior, I, that's actually exactly how I would define a warrior, a true
Mm.
warrior, fierce but kind, you know, loving, So, um, so the fierce yet loving warrior is, that this is a person that wants peace, but they are not afraid to fight.
Mm.
So, is this an accurate description of you?
Yeah, I think so.
So, when you looked at that picture, you saw you.
In some capacities, I would say yes.
Okay. Do you mind if I ask in what capacities?
It
Or
depends
just
on
say
the
one.
Yeah, it depends on the day and the time because you know what? If I need caffeine, um, let's be real. So yes.
Okay. So that's when that fierce part is coming out when you need caffeine.
Right. Or the lack thereof.
Okay.
It's not.
So the true warrior, they fight the good fight.
Mhm.
What are you currently fighting for right now?
Um, Currently, I'm on this current journey of something that was given to me that I feel from my higher power is a light. So when I think about being fierce, I think about igniting that light that is within other humans so that they can become what they deserve, and they can lean into that. So we all have this little ember within us. Some of us, our lights are a little dimmer because we've forgotten who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us are a little dimmer because we haven't figured it out yet, and some are they're blazing. Their light is blazing because they're living according to their truth. And I feel that right now in our world, we have an opportunity to ignite our future generations. And so, me being one who I feel very grateful that I have people that have influenced me over the years to help me see my light. And so, therefore, I started my own nonprofit, Fierce Foundation, that serves underrepresented men and women and children in order to create generational self sufficiency. And doing that, able to get to the core of grassroots issues. So when I say grassroots, I mean mental health. I mean children understanding and believing what they're meant for. So we teach our hero's journey, being able to help children and humans understand where their passion meets their talent, meets their opportunity in the market, so that they can live to the highest essence of themselves while also learning how to be self sufficient. Because figuring out what you're good at doesn't necessarily mean what your job is,
Mm-hmm.
but you can do what you're good at, make some money, and then put it into what you really love to do and
Right.
create that generational self-sufficiency. So I feel that I'm very passionate about that work, and being able to help people emerge from a lot of the dark places in order to create that self-sufficiency for themselves
Mm-hmm.
and for their families and for the future generation.
Do you feel like you're doing all of this stuff because of the things that you went through?
Oh,
Because you had to
100%.
fight out of a dark place, so you want to help other
Mhm.
people to get out of theirs.
Yeah, I mean, if I can get out, it's your obligation. I think it's your obligation. Once we figure out, even if it's like us, it's simply figuring out the best route to get to the grocery store. Share it with another person. Once you figure out, oh wow, you can make this recipe, or you can figure out how to be the first person to own a home. You can be the first person in your family to own a vehicle. You
Mm-hmm.
can be the first person to create different streams of income. That's your job, to share it with other people, because guess what? We don't get out of this journey alive. None of us do.
Right.
So what are you leaving behind? Because there's this concept that we don't actually die until the last person speaks our name. So what are they going to be saying about you?
Mm. Wow. That's pretty profound. That is pretty profound. So, what do you want the last person? What do you want the last person that speaks about you? What do you want those words to be?
I would say so Carolyn Colleen made me feel seen.
Mm. Okay. I can, yeah, I can definitely see you. I don't know how to actually verbalize what I'm trying to say, but I feel that and I receive it. Let me say that. Yeah, that's the best way I can put it right now because I cannot figure out how to verbalize it, but I received that. I definitely received that. Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on to some more talking piece. Well, kind of the same ones, but just we're going to look at them differently now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip those same pictures upside down. I'm going to tell you what I see with each one of those pictures, okay? And then I want you to ask me a question. You can choose any of these pictures and any of my descriptions of these pictures, and I want you to ask me a question based off of what I tell you that I see, okay? Okay, so here was the last one. Here's your fierce warrior, but the warrior is also very kind. So upside down, this looks to me like the female reproductive system, but it like at the top of it, it looks like the female reproductive system, but it looks like it's sitting on top of two lungs. So that's that first one. And here, so this was the masquerade ball. Oh, I'm sorry, masquerade ball mask. And upside down, it looks like two woodpeckers high-fiving each other. And then here is Mother Earth. And upside down, it looks like an exploding butterfly, and the debris from the butterfly is just kind of floating around it. Okay, so which one of these pictures would you like to choose to ask me a question based off of my description?
I'd have to say the last one, the exploding butterfly.
Okay.
I mean, the other ones are fun too. I mean, I've got all kinds of questions I'm thinking of, but so with the exploding butterfly, what does that like? What is that? So as far as a butterfly signifies kind of like what is that? The name of a phoenix almost. Like it's that new life and hope perspective. What does that mean to you when you think of an exploding butterfly? What does that mean to you?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna tell you something that's funny about that one. When the very first Rorschach test that I was a teenager, and I was in a class. I was taking a class, and the teacher pulled out which is probably the most famous, I believe, Rorschach test, the one where they say if you see a butterfly, you're a happy person, but if you see an explosion, then you're an angry person. And he was going around and he's asking people, what do you see? And people were like, butterfly explosion, butterfly explosion. And then you got the label of angry person, happy person, angry person, happy person. And when he got to me, I said it looks like an exploding butterfly. And everybody around me laughed, but he didn't laugh because he didn't really think it was funny. But I wasn't trying to make a joke. I was making a point that life isn't so black and white, where you can just look at a picture, say that you see something, and then all of a sudden you're labeled as something. Right? So because of that, the whole exploding butterflies thing has been a theme for me ever since then. I have started off. I'm an author as well. I have 7 published books now. One of the books that I was going to write was called Exploding Butterflies. But I just never finished it. As a matter of fact, I never got past the first chapter. I knew where I wanted to go with it, but I never went there. Also, in the music industry, I was a rapper. And as I was, I had a couple of lyrics where I actually mentioned the exploding butterfly. So this has just been a constant thing for me, the whole exploding butterfly thing for me. So when I saw this picture, when I turned it upside down, I immediately laughed because I was like, well, here we go. Everything's coming full circle.
It's all full circle.
Yeah, it is. So what the exploding butterfly actually symbolizes for me is just life, because butterflies are a symbol of change. So we're constantly changing, constantly changing. But sometimes there's chaos in the midst of the change, and that's where the explosion comes in.
Mhm.
And but it also, I'm also able to look at that picture, and I have the power to decide what I want to focus on. Do I want to focus on the butterfly? Do I want to focus on the explosion? The same thing when I wake up every day. I make the decision. Do I want to have a good day? Do I want to have a bad day? Regardless of what's going on around me,
Mhm.
it's up to me to decide what part of that exploding butterfly that I'm going to focus on. So that I it's just so funny. I don't try to prepare for these, like when I flip these pictures upside down, I look at it long enough to figure out what I see, but I don't put any thought into it
Mhm.
because I never want to be prepared for when the person says, okay, well, what were you thinking when you saw this or whatever? I don't want to ever be prepared for it. I want this to be an on the spot, in real time, my explanation of whatever it is. But unfortunately, in this case, I've been preparing for this answer for years.
You have. I'd be excited to see that book, The Exploding Butterfly.
Yeah, maybe I'll get back to it.
Yeah.
Maybe I will.
Huh.
Yeah,
That sounds
yeah.
cool.
I've like been into psychology since I was a kid. I went through a lot of things as well, um, growing up. So I've been, I was in front of my first therapist when I was 12 years old.
Mm.
So that's when my journey with psychology began.
Mm.
And so I've just been like really, really wrapped up into every aspect of psychology. I loved it. I've studied it, not in a formal institution because me and school just did not get along. I did one semester of college. I actually only did 8 weeks out of the semester. I didn't even, do the whole thing. I passed, but school wasn't for me. But so a lot of the psychology that I've studied has been, on my own,
Mm.
and just life lessons. You learn things, you observe, you feel, and
And yeah,
yeah.
that's what I say is it's a life. It's on life. I say I have a PhD, but it's not. It's poor, hungry, driven.
Mm, wow.
It's that's there's a lot of things you learn so much more. My second book, Academic Entrepreneurialism, that's a theory behind academia
Hmm.
versus entrepreneurialism, and which is it life skills or is it academic traditional skills that get you where you want to be? And actually, my
Right.
argument is it's a little bit of both.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And
mhm.
I wish that they taught more about being an entrepreneur in school.
Yeah.
It's very academic based, and I think that that's part of why I didn't really do well with that. Also, school is just too structured for me. I can't do the structured thing. And the reason that I can't do the structured thing is because my butterflies explode.
And that's beautiful. And that's why I say with, how do we create generational self-sufficiency for our youth is a new way of education. So education itself, I feel very passionately that it's time to reset it. And that's why I opened my own private school. And it's a private STEM school that's very disruptive. And
Mm-hmm.
we figure out what's right about you
Mm-hmm.
as a child, what's right about you, and how do you live to the highest essence of you. And then once you do that, how do you figure out how to give it back? Because it takes a village to raise a child, and most of the day is spent outside,
Mm-hmm.
where there's not a traditional classroom by any means. Actually, the kids are the ones who lead, not the teacher. So, how do we raise entrepreneurs? We do so with the school that I created and help build.
You just said one of my favorite words. You said disruptive. I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely love that word. But what does that word mean to you?
It means that, and I like this saying, if everyone's running in one direction, you need to stop and see what they're running away from and find out a new plan. So, and that's in society as a whole. Like we've got a lot of big things going on. How do you open your eyes and seek to understand compared to seek to rebuttal or try to get someone to agree with exactly what you're saying? maybe you should try to understand where they're coming from, why they're coming from, and then make your own opinion. And so,
Right.
how do we raise our next generation to do that? Actually listen, actually understand. Oh, now you might have a different perspective from me. Maybe one person grew up in a town of 40 and another person grew up in a town of 4 million. They're going to see the world differently.
Right.
Understand, ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
And how might we be able to create a world that all of us can find our own highest essence of self without trying to destroy somebody else's? So I feel very passionately about this different kind of model,
Mm-hmm.
because what we do is we don't answer questions for these learners. We actually we ask more questions. So
Mm-hmm.
teaching them how to ask questions is very disruptive. So
Yes. Yes, it
mhm.
is. Yes, it is. What's the name of your school?
It is Acton Midwest. It is a
Acting, ACTING, acting.
ACTON.
Oh, Acton. Okay.
It's
ACT.
a network of schools internationally now that have taken off like wildfire, and it's
Okay.
taught
And
in ACTON.
Acton Midwest. And you started the school.
So yes, the concept and the curriculum started 10 years ago, and I started my own school here in the Midwest.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
it's a collaborative of schools all around the world. We use the same model, and then you open your own, kind of like a franchise.
Okay. So are you teaching, do you have like certain age groups that you teach?
hmm So 4K all the way to high school.
Okay. Okay. But it's not like a traditional school where you get math, English, literature, whatever those other classes are. I don't remember.
Yeah,
It's just
it's a STEM entrepreneurial school. So it's science,
okay.
technology, engineering, and math
Okay.
with an entrepreneurial twist. But it's not taught in a traditional manner.
Mhm.
So we teach reading, we teach writing, mathematics, engineering, STEM. But
Mhm.
it's taught in a different way. So kind of like with robots, the kids, the 7-year-olds, were creating little robots. And so they had the fun in learning how to create a
Mhm.
robot, and then you learn the things that are necessary in which to make it make sense. Well, why am I learning this math? What is this all about? Well, it makes it exciting for them to understand it so that their robot works properly.
Mhm.
And then they start their own little businesses and they have their own little side hustles. And
Mhm.
you need to know math, you need to know currency, you need to
Mhm.
know writing to write your business plan. You need to be
Right.
able to know speaking and presentation in order to explain, what are you going to do with the money that's left over? How are you going to pay back your investors, which might be your parents because they gave you $5 for the paper? Those kinds of things. So we tie in the outcome, just like entrepreneurs. You have the outcome, and then you figure out what resources and tools you need in order to get to that outcome. It's the same thing.
I think this is such an amazing idea. I think that had I gone to a STEM school, well, yours in particular, that I think my time in school would have been different. I think I would have really enjoyed it.
Yeah, the
But I
love
think
for
I did.
learning.
Hmm. Yeah.
As humans, we love learning,
Yeah.
and how you do it doesn't really necessarily matter. The outcome is what matters.
Right. Yeah. And I think that was my thing. I've always loved to learn, but it was the settings, it was the teachers, it was the curriculum. It was just so it just didn't work for me. But I
Yeah,
always wanted to learn, but it just, I had to take what was given, you know.
yep, yep.
So and but you all you switch it around. You let the children tell you what they want. I think that's amazing. I really think that's amazing. I think that you are grooming a bunch of leaders,
Mm.
a bunch of entrepreneurs, business owners, just amazing people who are going to turn around and do the same thing for the generations after them. Um, Carolyn, you are a hero. I don't know if you know this or not, but you are a hero.
Well, thank you, thank you. I received that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you. Thank you for the contributions that you are making to this world.
Thank you.
Because you're leaving an imprint on this whole world right now, on Mother Earth.
Yes,
On
yes.
Mother Earth. You were creating a bunch of warriors from Mother Earth that may or may not need to wear that masquerade ball mask. But even if they are wearing that mask, they will learn how to repurpose it. So I just wanted to bring everything full circle because we are coming to an end now. But yes, I thank you. I thank you so much for this. This has been, you have been not only one of the most interesting people I've interviewed, but you were one of the most interesting people that I've spoken to. Period.
Well, thank you.
I've picked up so much from this. I really have. Like this has been amazing. And I want to stay connected with you. I definitely want to talk to you a lot more.
Yes, most definitely. Yes, this has been fun. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you. Thank you so much. Now, before we go, I want to do two things. One, I want you to just give everybody all the information that you want to give them. Let them know anything that you have going on, and any way that they can get in contact with you.
Yes. So my website is carolyncolleen.com, CarolynColleen.com. You can go there and you can find access to the school, which is Acton, ACTON, Midwest, MIDWEST.com, along with the nonprofit, books, articles, and check out what we're up to. So we have our newsletter as well.
Okay. All right. And the other thing I want to do before we go, I have one more picture for you, and I want you to just tell me exactly what it is that you see here. Okay.
I love it. This podcast is so dope.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you again so much. I really appreciate it this time.
Thank you.
All right. And for the rest of y'all be good to each other.